There are a lot of frustrations with not being able to see, from the simple aggravation of the oil from our fingers leaving smudges on our lens and not being able to see clearly. What an aggravation. Or you have been probably at a parade and the crowd just comes around you, blocks your view, stands in front of you, and you can't see the floats going by. I remember being at Kings Island with Ross when he was younger, and I said, Ross, stay right beside me and don't lose sight of me. And I'm telling you, it wasn't but a split second. I look around and Ross is not there. The crowd of people were so great that somehow we got separated. I jump on a park bench and I spot him over the head and shoulders of the people. And I see this terror on his face as he is looking around and just afraid that he's lost. Isn't it amazing how you can be surrounded by people and still feel alone? I called for his name and finally was able to grab his attention. He locked eyes with me and you could see this sense of relief that, oh, there's Dad. Have you ever been in those moments where you just can't see what God is doing and you feel alone or you feel fearful? You feel aggravated, like, God, how are you moving in the midst of this situation? Or, God, where are you? The Bible says in Proverbs chapter 29, verse 18, he says, if the people can't see what God is doing, they stumble all over themselves. And that's about right. When we are in the midst of a crisis or in a situation, maybe even around us in our world, God, what are you doing? What is going on? We tend to stumble all over ourselves. We stumble in our faith. We stumble in trust. We're fearful. And that can show up and show itself in many different forms and ways. Sometimes we get aggravated at the situation that we're in. But really, are we aggravated? Or is it that we have lost trust or faith that God is with me even in this hard-pressing time that I'm in? But the verse goes on to say, but if they can attend to what God is revealing, if they can attend, so if they can be present in the moment of what God is doing, they are most blessed. You know, that's where I want to be. I'm reminding of the story of Elisha, and they are surrounded. It's Elisha and his assistant that's with him. They're surrounded. The assistant sees the enemy coming, and he is fearful. He says, what are we going to do? You could see the terror and the fear on him. And Elisha just simply said, Lord, open his eyes. Let him see. And as God opened the assistant's eyes, he saw that he was surrounded actually by God's army in the spiritual realm. The assistant now sees what Elisha sees, that they are not just surrounded by a physical army or an enemy, but even beyond that, they are surrounded by the presence of God. That God has resource, He has protection, He has an army. I don't know where you feel alone or you feel isolated, or I don't know what you're worried about. I don't know what you're going through, but I do know this, that maybe what you're seeing in the natural is not the full story. Maybe there's something beyond in the supernatural. Maybe there's something beyond that God is doing in the midst of your situation. Sometimes the obstacle or the oily smudges on our lens that are keeping us from seeing what God is doing. Sometimes it is lack. Sometimes it's what's not working. The problems in our life can be so big that it can keep us from seeing that God has answers and solutions for us. The enemy will do his best to keep obstacles in front of your view, to keep you from seeing what God is doing. And he'll keep you focused on aggravations, on offenses, things that offend you, and maybe even a hopeless feeling, maybe a loneliness. When we are more focused on the problem, when we're more focused on the aggravation, we're not truly seeing with eyes of faith. We're not seeing that God is present. And that is a trick of the enemy to keep you frustrated, to keep you from having vision. Those all can be obstacles to keep you from seeing that God is present, that His resources are fully surrounding you and available to you. And I pray that the eyes of our hearts will be open to where we can see, not only see what God is doing, but attend, be fully present in what God is doing, and His promise is that we will be blessed. So I pray that the eyes of our heart will be able to see beyond the obstacle, beyond where the enemy may be surrounding you, beyond loneliness, that you'll be able to see with eyes of faith.